The sun was just starting to rise over the quiet lake. A cool breeze touched the surface of the water, making tiny ripples that glittered under the light. The small wooden cabin on the shore stood peacefully, looking almost like part of the forest around it. For years, the cabin had been the perfect place for one family to escape the noise of the city. Mark, a tall man with calm eyes, arrived early that morning with his sister Anna. They carried fishing rods, a basket of food, and smiles on their faces. This lake was more than a holiday spot to them. Their father had built the cabin when they were children, and every summer the family came here to relax and spend time together. Mark placed the basket on the porch and looked proudly at the cabin. "Feels good to be back," he said. Anna nodded, brushing her hair behind her ear. "It never changes. Same smell of pine, same water, same peace." They walked around, checking the cabin after months of being away. The wood was still strong, the windows clean, and the porch chairs ready for use. To Anna, it felt like the cabin was alive, waiting for them each year. She smiled and breathed deeply, glad to escape from the stress of her work. But their peace did not last long. As they prepared to unlock the door, a black car pulled up on the dirt road. Out came a man in a neat suit carrying a clipboard. His face was stern, and his steps were quick. "Good morning," the man said, not sounding friendly at all. "Are you the owners of this property?" Mark frowned. "Yes, this is our family's cabin." "Who are you?" The man lifted the clipboard. "I represent the Lakeside Homeowners Association. According to our records, your family has not paid HOA fees for the last 2 years. Because of that, the association has voted to demolish this cabin." Anna's eyes widened. "Demolish? This cabin is ours. My father built it with his own hands. We never signed up for your association." The man cleared his throat. "All properties around this lake are under HOA management. Rules are rules. Non-payment means consequences." Mark's voice grew firm. "You can't just come here and threaten to destroy private property. This is not happening." The man wrote something on his clipboard and shrugged. "Notice has been given. Demolition is scheduled. You can fight it if you want, but good luck with that." He turned, got into his car, and drove off, leaving dust on the road. Anna stood frozen for a moment, trying to understand what had just happened. "Mark, this doesn't make sense. No one ever contacted us before. No letters, no calls. And why would they have the power to destroy our home?" Mark tightened his jaw. "Something is not right here. This isn't about unpaid fees. It feels bigger than that." Later that evening, their cousins David and Nora arrived with supplies. They too loved the cabin and were excited to spend the weekend together. But when Mark told them about the strange visitor, their smiles disappeared. "This is serious," David said. He was younger but sharp, always quick to analyze problems. "If the association is planning something, they'll try to move fast. They won't wait for us to fight them." Nora crossed her arms. "They picked the wrong family. Do they even know who we are?" Anna gave a small smile. "Probably not. What the HOA did not know was that every member of this family worked as a federal agent in different branches of government. Mark worked in investigations, Anna in intelligence, David in cybercrime, and Nora in field operations. They had always kept their work quiet when together at the lake, because the cabin was a place for peace, not duty. But now duty was knocking on their cabin door. The family sat around the wooden table inside, a single lamp lighting their faces. They spoke in low voices, careful and serious. "They want to take what is ours," Mark said. "We cannot let them." "We will not," Anna replied. "But we must be smart. If this is only about money, we can prove we owe nothing. But if it is more than that, then we need to know why." David leaned forward. "I can check their digital records. If there is corruption, I will find it. Nora tapped the table. And if they come sooner, we will be ready to stand in their way. Outside, the night grew darker. The lake was quiet, but the air around the cabin no longer felt peaceful. For the first time in many years, the family felt that danger had reached their safe place. Before going to bed, Mark stepped onto the porch and looked across the water. His hand rested on the old wooden railing. He remembered his father's laughter, the sound of hammers when the cabin was first built, and the joy of summers gone by. He whispered to himself, "No one will take this from us." Behind him, Anna locked the door. David opened his laptop. Nora sharpened her focus, watching the road with alert eyes. The cabin, once a home of rest, was now becoming the center of a battle. The HOA thought it was dealing with ordinary owners. They had no idea they had just challenged a family of federal agents. And the family was ready to fight back. The next morning, the family woke early. Mist floated above the lake, and the sound of birds echoed in the forest. Normally, mornings at the cabin were calm and joyful, but this one felt different. There was tension in the air, like a storm waiting to arrive. David had barely slept. He spent most of the night on his laptop, tracing digital trails of the Lakeside Homeowners Association. His fingers moved quickly over the keys, searching through public records, hidden files, and financial reports. By the time the others joined him at the table, he had a serious look on his face. "I found something strange," David said, turning his screen toward them. The HOA was registered only 3 years ago. Before that, it didn't exist. But here's the odd part: its financial records are hidden, and the board members' names don't appear anywhere in official documents. Anna leaned closer. "That doesn't sound like a real association. It sounds like a cover for something else." Nora nodded. "Exactly. No real HOA hides its leaders. Someone created this as a tool. The question is, why target this cabin?" Mark rubbed his chin, deep in thought. "This place is not fancy. It is not a mansion or a big estate. But it is private and near the water. Maybe they want the land, not the fees." As they spoke, the sound of an engine rolled across the dirt road. A white truck slowed down near the cabin and then passed by slowly, almost too slowly. The driver wore dark glasses and didn't wave or greet anyone. Nora's eyes followed the truck until it vanished. "They're watching us." That wasn't a random passerby. Mark stood. "Then we must be careful. We will not show fear, but we must stay alert. They expect us to give up easily. That will not happen." Later in the day, Anna walked down to the small dock by the lake. She needed a moment of peace to think. The water reflected the trees like a mirror, calm and endless. But as she sat on the edge, she noticed something unusual: a small drone hovering above the tree line. It buzzed softly, barely noticeable, but its camera lens glinted in the sunlight. She stood quickly, waving to Mark, who was near the porch. "Drone," she called. Mark spotted it too. With sharp reflexes, he picked up a stone from the ground and threw it hard. The stone struck the drone, and it tumbled into the water with a hiss before sinking out of sight. David came running. "They're not just watching from the road. They're using technology. Someone is gathering information on us." Anna crossed her arms. "Then we must gather information on them." That night, the family sat together again. David spread papers and digital notes across the table. "I traced their main office address," he said. "But when I checked the location on maps, it's just an empty warehouse. No signboard, no people. This isn't just a fake HOA, it's a front operation." Nora leaned back in her chair. "Front for what? Land scam? Illegal deals?" "Could be both," David replied. "But they are organized. They have vehicles, drones, and boldness. They're not afraid to threaten families." Mark's face was calm, but his voice carried weight. If they think they can scare us, they are wrong. Tomorrow we investigate more closely. We find out who is behind this. The following day, they split tasks. David stayed at the cabin to continue his digital digging. Anna and Nora drove into the small town nearby to ask locals about the HOA. Mark planned to follow the white truck if it appeared again. In town, Anna and Nora visited a cafe where old residents often gathered. The two women ordered tea and sat near a group of older men talking about fishing. Anna smiled politely and asked, "Do you know anything about the Lakeside Homeowners Association?" The cafe went silent for a moment. The men exchanged uneasy looks. Finally, one man with a gray beard leaned forward. "Stay away from them," he whispered. "They are not what they claim to be. Families who refused to pay, their places disappeared. First houses, then cabins. Some people moved out of fear." Nora narrowed her eyes. "Disappeared? You mean destroyed?" The man shook his head slowly. "Sometimes destroyed, sometimes just gone. Land fenced, properties sold. No one knows who takes them, but the association always has an answer: unpaid fees, broken rules, fines." Anna felt a chill. "And no one stops them?" The man gave a weak smile. "People tried. The sheriff doesn't fight them. He says they are legal. Most of us learned to stay quiet." Back at the cabin, Mark spotted the white truck again, parked near the forest. This time, instead of confronting it, he quietly followed from a distance. The truck drove slowly around the lake, then turned down a hidden dirt path that led to a cluster of cabins. Some cabins looked empty, others half destroyed. Mark noted the path carefully before returning home. When the family regrouped, they shared their findings. "They're not just after money," Anna said. "They've been taking properties around the lake." Mark nodded. "I found a hidden site where some cabins are already gone. They may be trying to clear the area for something bigger." David tapped his laptop. "And I finally cracked one of their hidden files. Guess what? They're connected to a private company. The company buys land cheap once the HOA declares families in violation. Then they sell it for profit." Nora's eyes sharpened. "So it's all about greed. They want this land. Our cabin is next." The family sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the discovery sinking in. But then Mark spoke firmly. "If they think we are weak, they will learn the truth soon. We are not giving up this cabin. Tomorrow, we take the first step to expose them." The lake was quiet outside, but the shadows of their unknown enemies grew darker. The HOA had no idea what storm they had awakened by targeting this family. The morning air was sharp and cool. Mist still hung over the lake when Mark stepped outside the cabin with a cup of coffee in his hand. He stood on the porch, scanning the quiet road. He had a feeling the HOA would not stay quiet for long. Inside, David sat with his laptop, eyes red from working late into the night. "I traced more files," he said when Mark came in. "That private company behind the HOA has been buying huge sections of land across the state. Always the same trick: use fake rules, force families out, and then flip the land for profit." Anna set plates of food on the table. "Then they must want this whole lake cleared. Our cabin is in their way." Before anyone could reply, the sound of heavy engines filled the air. Mark stepped outside again, and his eyes narrowed. Two large trucks were rolling slowly down the dirt road, dust rising behind them. Each truck carried construction equipment: excavators, drills, and crates of tools. "They're here," Mark said calmly. The family rushed to the porch. The truck stopped near the cabin, and several men in bright vests jumped out. They carried clipboards and heavy boots, looking more like a demolition crew than regular workers. One man, tall and broad, walked to the front and shouted, "This property is scheduled for removal. Clear out immediately." Anna stepped forward. "This is private property. You have no right to touch it." The man smirked. "We have orders. You didn't pay your fees. That means demolition. You can take your personal items, but the cabin goes down today." Nora's voice was cold and steady. "You'll need more than orders to move us." The men exchanged uncertain looks. Clearly, they had not expected resistance. Still, the tall man waved his hand, signaling for the others to bring equipment closer. Engines roared to life, shaking the ground. Mark walked calmly down the steps, placing himself directly in front of the nearest excavator. "If you want to touch this cabin," he said, "you'll have to go through me first." The driver hesitated, keeping the machine idle. The tall man grew frustrated. "You don't understand. We'll call the sheriff. He will back us. You can't stop this." David stepped forward with his phone in hand. "Actually, we can. I have full video recording of your trucks, your faces, and your attempt to destroy private property without a legal order. You want this going online? You want state officials watching?" For a moment, silence fell. The workers shifted uneasily. They had come expecting an easy job, but instead found a family standing firm. The tall man growled, "You think you're clever. But orders are orders. We'll be back with proper paperwork." He motioned for his crew to pull back. Slowly, the trucks turned around, engines still rumbling, and drove away. Anna exhaled deeply. That was too close. Mark's eyes were firm. They'll be back. Next time with more pressure. Later that day, the family gathered inside again. David placed his laptop on the table. "I captured their radio chatter before they left. They're planning to bring the sheriff tomorrow. They think legal force will push us out." Nora leaned on the chair. "If the sheriff is working with them, then we can't rely on local law. We need to expose them higher." Anna agreed. "But to do that, we need solid proof documents, contracts, evidence of fraud." Mark nodded. "Then tonight we move. We'll go to that warehouse address David found. If the HOA is hiding something, that's where we'll find it." As the sun set, the family prepared. Nora checked flashlights and tools. David packed his laptop and secure drives. Anna carried a small bag with maps and notes. Mark readied the car, his eyes steady. By nightfall, they were on the road, driving quietly through the forest paths. The moon lit their way as they approached the old warehouse on the edge of town. The building looked abandoned, with broken windows and rusty walls. But faint light glowed inside. They parked at a distance and moved carefully on foot. Nora whispered, "Stay low. If this is their base, they'll have guards." Through a crack in the wall, David spotted men sitting at tables with piles of papers, laptops, and maps. On one board hung photographs of lake properties, each marked with red lines. Their cabin was circled with a bold red marker. Anna's heart tightened. "They're planning everything here. This is the control room." Mark placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll get what we need. Quiet and fast." They waited until one guard stepped outside for a smoke. Then they slipped in through the side entrance. David moved quickly to connect his laptop to their system. His fingers danced over the keyboard, copying files. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the hall. A guard was returning. Nora acted fast, distracting him by tossing a small rock across the floor. The noise drew him away, giving David precious seconds to finish. "I got it," David whispered. "Financial files, contracts, property maps, all of it." But just as they prepared to leave, a door slammed open. The tall man from earlier entered the warehouse, his eyes sharp. He spotted the family instantly. "You," he shouted. "You shouldn't be here." Mark stepped forward calmly, standing between the man and his family. And you shouldn't be running a fake HOA. The man's face twisted with anger. You don't know what you're getting into. Anna's voice was steady. Actually, we do. The family slipped out quickly, files secured, while the tall man yelled orders for guards to chase them. They rushed back to the car, tires spinning on the dirt as they escaped into the night. Back at the cabin, David connected the files to his laptop. Screens filled with evidence of fraud, money laundering, and illegal land grabs. This is enough to bring them down, David said. Mark's voice was steady but firm. Then tomorrow, the real fight begins. The lake was silent again, but in the shadows, the HOA was preparing for war. Morning sunlight spilled through the cabin windows, but the family felt no peace. The night before had been tense, with their escape from the warehouse and the files they now carried. David had worked until dawn, sorting through the stolen documents, his face lit by the glow of his laptop. These files are clear proof, David said, tapping the screen. Fake fees, forged signatures, secret payments to officials, even property sales that never went through the courts. They've been stealing land for years. Anna poured coffee and handed cups to everyone. Then we have what we need. We just need the right way to use it. Mark looked out the window toward the road. We don't have much time. They'll try again soon, maybe today. They won't stop until we give up or fight back. His words proved true only an hour later. A line of vehicles appeared on the dirt road. In front was a black SUV with a golden star on the door. Behind it followed the same white truck from before, plus two more construction trucks. Dust clouded the air as they parked near the cabin. The sheriff stepped out first. He was a tall man with a white hat, gray mustache, and eyes that showed little warmth. He adjusted his belt as he walked toward the porch, flanked by two deputies. The tall man from the HOA warehouse stood behind him, arms crossed and a smirk on his face. "Morning," the sheriff said in a heavy voice. "You folks are causing trouble. I've been told you refuse to follow association rules." Anna folded her arms. "We follow the law, not fake rules." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "The association says you owe years of fees. That means demolition can move forward. I'm here to keep the peace." Nora stepped forward, her voice steady. "Keeping the peace doesn't mean helping criminals." The sheriff frowned. "Careful with your words. You don't want to make this harder than it already is." Mark's tone was calm but firm. "Sheriff, let me be clear. This land belongs to our family. We never signed into their association. We never agreed to their fees. We have proof they are running a scam." David lifted his laptop. "And if you try to force demolition, the whole world will see what's really happening here. Every file, every payment, every stolen property, I'll release it all online." The sheriff's jaw tightened. His deputies exchanged uneasy looks. For a moment, silence hung heavy in the air. Then the tall HOA man stepped forward angrily. "Sheriff, don't listen to them. They're liars. Just give us the order and let's finish this place." But the sheriff hesitated. He looked at the family, then at the deputies, then back at the cabin. Something in his expression shifted, though his voice remained gruff. "I'll give you 1 day. 1 day to settle this matter properly. After that, if the association still holds papers against you, I'll come back. And next time, I won't leave without results." He tipped his hat, turned, and walked back to his SUV. The HOA man followed, clearly angry, while the construction crews pulled their trucks away slowly. Dust rose again as the convoy left the cabin behind. The family stood on the porch, watching until the last vehicle disappeared. "They'll be back," Nora said quietly. Mark nodded. "Yes, but now we know the sheriff isn't fully convinced. He gave us time. We need to use it wisely." Anna looked at David. "Do we have enough to go straight to the state authorities?" David frowned. Yes, but sending files isn't enough. If this group has been active for years, they may have friends in higher places. We need to show the evidence in person, in a way no one can ignore. Nora tapped the porch rail. Then we take it to the state capitol. We deliver it directly. Mark thought for a moment, then agreed. But we can't all leave. They may try to destroy the cabin while we're gone. 2 of us go with the evidence, 2 stay here to protect the property. They discussed for several minutes until they decided, David and Anna would take the files to the state capitol. Their skills in cyber and intelligence made them best suited to present evidence. Mark and Nora would stay to defend the cabin. That afternoon, David copied all the documents onto secure drives. He locked them in a metal case, testing it twice to be sure. Anna packed maps, IDs, and supplies for the trip. Before leaving, they all gathered on the porch together. This cabin is more than wood and nails, Mark said quietly. It's family, it's history. We will not lose it. Anna, David, bring back the truth. Nora and I will hold the ground. Anna smiled and hugged her brother. Be careful. We'll be back soon. David shook hands with Nora. Keep watch. They'll come again. As the sun lowered, David and Anna drove off, heading toward the highway that led to the state capitol. Mark and Nora watched until the car disappeared among the trees. The cabin felt quieter now, but not safer. Mark checked the locks, sharpened their tools, and kept a close eye on the road. Nora scanned the forest with binoculars, watching for any sign of movement. As night fell, the lake reflected the moonlight, calm and silent. But the 2 siblings knew silence was only the surface. Somewhere out there, the HOA was planning its next move. And this time, they would not come with only trucks. David kept his eyes on the road as the car rolled down the highway. The forest stretched on both sides, thick and endless. Anna sat beside him with the metal case on her lap, holding it tightly as if it were treasure. Inside the case was everything they needed to bring down the fake HOA files, contracts, bank records, and maps. Neither spoke much at first. The cabin was still on their minds, and both felt the weight of what they carried. Finally, Anna broke the silence. We can't fail, she said softly. David glanced at her. We won't. Once the right people see this, the HOA won't survive another day. The miles rolled by, but a quiet tension filled the car. Both knew the enemy would not let them reach the capital easily. Around midday, David noticed a black SUV in the rearview mirror. It stayed far behind at first, but after several turns it was still there. Anna noticed too. They're following us, she said. David's grip on the wheel tightened. Then we stay calm. If we panic, they'll know we're sure of it. The SUV kept its distance for another 10 minutes before moving closer. David turned off the highway, taking a smaller road through the hills. The SUV followed. Anna's eyes narrowed. No more doubt. They're after us. David pressed the gas pedal, speeding through the winding road. The SUV matched their speed. Soon the chase began, tires screeching on the curves. Anna opened the glove box and pulled out a small flare gun they had packed. Keep driving straight, she said. David nodded. At the right moment, Anna leaned out of the window and fired the flare behind them. The red flame burst across the road, forcing the SUV to swerve. For a moment, they gained distance. But the SUV didn't give up. It roared forward again. David spotted a dirt road branching off into the woods. Without warning, he turned sharply, sending their car bouncing over roots and rocks. The SUV followed but struggled with the rough ground. Finally, after a long, rough stretch, its headlights disappeared. David slowed the car, breathing hard. That bought us time. Anna held the case tightly. We can't risk losing it. We need to reach the capital before they find another way to stop us. They drove for hours, switching between main roads and hidden paths. By evening, the skyline of the capital city appeared in the distance, tall buildings glowing under the fading sun. Relief washed over them, but they remained cautious. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, Mark and Nora kept watch. The day had been quiet, too quiet. No trucks, no men, no sheriff. The silence was almost worse than an attack. "They're planning something bigger," Nora said, scanning the tree line. Mark nodded. "Yes. They want us to relax before striking hard. But we'll be ready." Night fell at the cabin. The siblings set lanterns around the porch and kept their tools close. They knew the fight wasn't over. Back in the capital, David and Anna checked into a small inn near the government district. They carried the metal case into their room and locked the door. "Tomorrow morning," David said, "we go straight to the State Office of Land Management. These files will speak for themselves." Anna agreed, but her eyes lingered on the window. Down on the street, a black SUV parked quietly near the corner. Its lights were off, but its presence was clear. "They found us," Anna whispered. David looked out too, his face serious. "Then tonight we stay sharp. We can't let them take the case." They took turns keeping watch, resting in short shifts. The night stretched long, filled with distant city sounds. At one point, footsteps echoed in the hall outside their room. A shadow lingered near the door, then moved away. Anna gripped the case tighter. "They're testing us. Seeing if we'll slip." Morning finally came. The sun shone through the curtains, and city life grew busy outside. David packed the laptop and drives, while Anna carried the case. They checked the hallway before stepping out. The streets were crowded, full of noise and people. They blended into the crowd, moving quickly toward the tall government building. For a while, it felt like they might make it without trouble. But halfway there, Anna spotted two men in suits following closely. Their eyes were sharp, and their pace matched theirs. David whispered, "Keep walking. Don't run. The crowd is our shield." They reached the steps of the government office, but the men behind them moved faster. Just as one reached for Anna's arm, security guards at the door stepped in. "Identification," one guard demanded. David showed his federal badge. The guard's eyes widened with respect. "Yes, sir. Please, come in." The two suited men froze, realizing they could not follow. Anna and David slipped through the doors, the case still in their hands. Inside, the building was cool and quiet. They were escorted to an office where senior officials waited. David placed the case on the desk and opened it, spreading the documents and files. "These," he said firmly, "are proof of fraud, theft, and land grabs by the so-called Lakeside Homeowners Association." The officials leaned forward, studying the evidence with serious faces. Anna added, "Families are losing homes. They plan to take the entire lake. It must be stopped now." The officials exchanged glances, then one of them spoke. "This is serious. You have done the right thing bringing it here. We will begin an investigation at once." Relief filled David and Anna. They had done their part. But as they left the office, Anna whispered to her brother, "Mark and Nora are still at the cabin. And the HOA won't give up easily." David nodded. "Then we must return quickly. The real fight may be waiting for them." Far away, by the quiet lake, Mark stood on the porch with watchful eyes. In the distance, the sound of engines began again. The storm was returning. The lake was quiet, but Mark knew it would not stay that way. He stood on the porch, scanning the dirt road. Nora sat nearby with binoculars, her eyes fixed on the tree line. Both felt the pressure of what was coming. "They'll come today," Nora said. "I can feel it." Mark nodded. "Yes. And when they do, we'll be ready." For hours the cabin remained silent. Birds flew over the water, the wind rustled through the pines, and the sun moved slowly across the sky. But in the early afternoon, the sound arrived engines, many of them. From the road, a convoy of trucks and SUVs appeared. Dust rose like a storm cloud as they approached. This time it was not just construction crews. There were men in uniforms, the sheriff's SUV, and even heavier machines. Nora gripped her binoculars. They brought everything. Mark stayed calm. Then we stand our ground until Anna and David return. The convoy stopped near the cabin. The sheriff stepped out first, his face harder than before. The tall HOA man followed, smiling with cruel confidence. Behind them, workers and guards spread out, circling the cabin. The sheriff raised his voice. "This is your last warning. You failed to pay. You failed to leave. By law, demolition begins today." Mark stepped forward, his voice steady. "This is not law. This is fraud. We have proof, and it is already in the hands of state officials. Whatever you try now will only make things worse for you." The HOA man laughed. "You think your little tricks will stop us? By the time anyone in the capital moves a finger, this cabin will be gone. And so will you." At his signal, workers moved toward the cabin with heavy tools. Engines roared as excavators prepared to advance. Nora's voice cut through the air. "Stop right there. Take one more step, and the world will see who you really are." She lifted a camera device David had set up before leaving. Red lights blinked, showing it was recording everything. The sheriff paused, unease flashing in his eyes. But the HOA man pushed forward. "Break it down," he shouted. The workers hesitated. Some looked nervous, glancing between the cabin, the sheriff, and the cameras. They were not used to open defiance. Mark stepped closer, his voice like steel. "You know this is wrong. Destroying this cabin will not erase the truth. It will only add to your crimes." Still, a few workers tried to move forward. Nora quickly released a flare into the air. The bright light startled them, and the sound echoed across the lake. Birds scattered from the trees. "This is your warning," Nora said firmly. "We are not leaving. If you try, the state will know you ignored proof and used force." The sheriff looked tense now. He wiped his brow and muttered something to his deputies. But before he could speak again, the distant sound of another engine rolled down the road. A black car appeared, speeding toward the cabin. Dust flew as it stopped beside the convoy. David and Anna stepped out, the metal case in Anna's hand. "Step away from the cabin," Anna shouted. "This land is under federal protection now. We delivered the files. The investigation has begun." David added, holding up a document with an official seal. "Here is the state order to freeze all HOA activity until the investigation is complete. Any attempt to continue demolition is now a direct violation of law." The sheriff froze, his eyes on the seal. His deputies leaned closer, reading the paper. Murmurs spread among the workers. Confidence faded. The HOA man turned red with anger. "This is nonsense. They forged it. Keep working." But no one moved. The sheriff stepped forward slowly, his hand on his belt. His voice was heavy, but different now. "If that paper is real, then we can't touch this property until the state makes a decision." Anna handed the order to him. "It's real. Call the Capitol if you doubt it." The sheriff read the seal again, then let out a slow breath. Finally, he lowered his hand. "Stand down," he told his deputies. "No work today." The convoy fell silent. Engines cut off. Workers looked at each other, unsure what to do. The tall HOA man shouted angrily, but his voice no longer carried power. "This isn't over," he growled at the family. "You think you've won, but you haven't. We'll find another way." Mark's eyes were sharp. Try if you like. But now the truth is against you. And so are we. The sheriff gave a short nod to the family, then turned back to his SUV. Slowly, the convoy began to retreat, one truck at a time. The dust cleared, leaving the cabin standing strong against the lake. When the last vehicle vanished, the family gathered on the porch. Relief washed over them, but they knew the fight was not yet finished. "They'll try again," Nora said. "Yes," David agreed, setting the case on the table. "But now the law is on our side. And the evidence is already safe in official hands." Anna looked at the cabin, glowing warmly in the afternoon light. "We protected it today. And tomorrow, the world will see what they've done." Mark placed his hand on the railing, steady and firm. "This cabin is more than wood. It's our family, our history. And we will not lose it." The storm had come, but the cabin still stood. Stronger than ever. The next morning, the lake reflected the rising sun, calm and clear. The cabin had survived the storm, standing firm against the threats of the past days. Mark and Nora moved around the porch, checking the doors, windows, and perimeter one last time. They wanted to be ready, even though the family had already taken the first steps to bring the HOA to justice. "They've learned we won't be easy," Mark said, glancing at the tree line. "But now the law is on our side." Nora nodded. "And we have proof. They can't fight against the evidence in court." Meanwhile, David and Anna had spent the night in the state capitol. Officials had worked late into the night, reviewing files, confirming signatures, and tracing payments. By early morning, a team of investigators was ready to act. Anna and David returned to the cabin in the afternoon. Their car rolled down the dirt road, the metal case safe and intact. As they arrived, Mark and Nora waved from the porch, smiles lighting their faces for the first time in days. "Welcome back," Mark said. "The cabin is still standing, and our enemies are learning their lesson." David opened a laptop and connected to a secure line with the investigators. "They've started freezing all assets of the HOA and its connected company," he said. "Every property is on hold. No demolition, no sale, nothing." Anna added, "They've even begun questioning board members and company officials. The investigation is moving faster than we expected." Nora let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "It's finally happening. Justice is coming." Over the next few days, the family watched closely as the news spread. Local papers published stories about the HOA's illegal activities. State officials announced a full investigation into property theft, fake fees, and fraud. Families who had lost cabins and homes finally received hope that their properties could be returned or compensated. At the cabin, the family sat on the porch together. The lake stretched peacefully in front of them, reflecting the soft light of the late afternoon. They shared stories, laughter, and small celebrations, grateful their home was still theirs. Mark looked at his siblings. "We did what our father would have wanted. This cabin was more than wood and nails. It was family, history, and safety. And now it will stay that way." Anna smiled. "It feels good to know the truth is out. They cannot take what belongs to us." David leaned back in his chair. "It wasn't easy, but we worked together. We used our skills, our brains, and our courage. That's what made the difference." Nora pointed to the tree line, still green and alive. "And we protected it. The cabin is ours, just like it always has been." That evening, the family lit a small fire on the porch. They roasted marshmallows, drank warm tea, and watched the sun sink behind the trees. The cabin glowed in the firelight, strong and proud, untouched by the threats it had faced. David held up his phone, showing messages from other families who had been helped by the investigation. "People are grateful. They finally have hope again. And it's all because we stood up and did the right thing." Anna nodded. "It proves something important. Courage, honesty, and teamwork always matter. No one can hide the truth forever. Mark smiled, feeling proud of what they had accomplished together. This lake, this cabin, it's more than a place. It's a symbol. A symbol that family and truth are stronger than greed and fear. Nora looked at the water, thinking about all the challenges they had faced. We came here to relax, to escape. Instead, we fought for what is right. And we won. That's something to remember. As night fell, the stars appeared, reflecting on the still surface of the lake. The family sat together in quiet peace, knowing that the fight was over, at least for now. The HOA was exposed, the investigation was underway, and their cabin was safe. Mark reached over, touching Anna's shoulder gently. We'll always protect this place, no matter what comes. That's our promise. Anna smiled, and Nora and David nodded in agreement. The fire crackled, the lake shimmered, and the cabin stood tall, a testament to the courage and unity of a family that refused to back down. In the distance, the first sounds of wildlife returned to the forest, a reminder that peace, like truth, always finds a way to shine. The storm had passed, the cabin survived, and the family was stronger than ever. Their lake cabin was not just a building. It was proof that justice, family, and determination could overcome any challenge. And now, the cabin was truly home.